Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. Lots to get to here on a Monday show. We got to talk about the electric debut that happened over the weekend. We got to look ahead to the upcoming series against Detroit. And we also got to talk about this Brewers coaching staff and a fun little story that we got out there about them as well. But first, got to get to the series win in Miami. The Brewers take 2 out of 3. Can't quite complete the sweep. But as the great philosopher Meatloaf once told us, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So the Brewers end up getting the win for the series. They get the first 2 wins of the series. Can't get the sweep on Sunday. It was a very typical Sunday afternoon getaway day kind of lineup, right? There was no William Contreras in there. There was no Sal Frelick in there. Garrett Mitchell as a DH. So really, I mean, this was not the A lineup for this group. You had the outfield consisting of Luis Matos, Brandon Lockridge, and Greg Jones, right? That's not your A group outfield in there. So it was going to be a tough one from the start, and then you got, the 2 phenoms on the mound, Jacob Misiorowski for the Crew, Yuri Perez for the Marlins. Yuri Perez, 6'8", 23 years old, throws 100 miles an hour. Kind of reminds you of Jacob Misiorowski. Very, very similar types of pitchers there. And, they went largely toe for toe, but Misiorowski stumbled out of the gate. First inning, gives up a walk, gives up a base hit, and, then an error. And the next thing you know, the first 3 batters have reached base, and it's bases loaded, nobody out in the first inning for Misiorowski. And ultimately, you end up with 3 runs scoring in that inning, and Misiorowski recovers nicely and pitches well the rest of the way, but it was enough to give the Marlins the lead that they needed, Yuri Perez the lead that he needed against that Brewers lineup, and ultimately they're able to get the win on Sunday there. So kind of in a tough spot with that one, with the lineup being what it was, but can't win them all, but you win the series. That's the important thing for the Brewers as they now head on to Detroit. And one of the big wins in this series came from, of course, Friday night with Coleman Crow on the bump, making his major league debut. And what a debut it was for Coleman Crow. 5 1/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. 77 pitches, pitched incredibly well, and showcased some just nasty stuff. He had some 3,000 RPM curveballs mixed in there, which is exactly what I expected, which is exactly what we talked about on Friday's show, how it's likely going to be Coleman Crow. Easton McGee ended up being the guy that gets optioned down to AAA Nashville, which made a ton of sense. So Coleman Crow comes in, and it's electric, nasty stuff, and he was impressing his teammates. He was impressing the coaches for the Brewers, and just kind of really getting some ugly swings there from those Marlins hitters, because he is just spinning the crap out of the ball, and it was absolutely wonderful to see. Averaging over 3,000 RPMs on the sweeper and the curveball, nearly 3,000 on the cutter as well. Just incredible movement on the pitches as well. You're getting 20 inches of horizontal break. That is just nasty. For a baseball to be moving that much over the course of only 60 feet and 6 inches. It is stupid good, stupid nasty. And this is exactly what the Brewers liked about Coleman Crow when they acquired him a couple of years ago from the Mets in that Adrian Hauser, Tyrone Taylor trade. This is exactly what they were looking for. They knew he was injured at the time, and they just figured that stuff was going to be able to stay where it was once he came back, and sure enough, they were right. And now Coleman Crow, he is one of their most electric young arms with this group. Yes, you have the Jacob Misiorowski throwing 100-plus miles an hour, but in terms of just kind of nasty stuff, spinning the ball, because that's something that the Brewers prioritize as well, he can spin it with the best of them. It is absurd. So this is not going to be the last time that we'll see Coleman Crow. As much as we all may be excited about the Robert Gassers and Logan Hendersons and the Brandon Sproats of the world and the Shane Drowens of the world, Coleman Crow belongs in that category as well. The Brewers added him to the 40-man roster back in November to prevent him from reaching minor league free agency, to prevent him from being a Rule 5 pick. They did that for a reason, because they knew this was in here, and they're very excited about the future that Coleman Crow brings. So especially if he keeps pitching like this, pitching into the 6th inning, giving yourself a very strong chance to win, that is exactly what is going to earn you more and more opportunities with the big league club, and to try and shoehorn yourself into this starting rotation, because it's a very crowded group when everyone is healthy, right? And this group is still missing Quinn Priester, who is going to be fitting into it somewhere, somehow, once he returns from injury. So you have a very strong, very deep group, and Coleman Crow is going to try and crowbar his way in there. Sorry, I had to. It just kind of came up in the moment, and I can't resist a pun like that. But anyways, Coleman Crow, he ends up getting sent down after this game, so he gets called up Friday officially, makes a start Saturday, gets sent back down to AAA Nashville. Seems like a very tough blow, I mean, especially considering the guy pitched really well. So it's like, well, why are you sending him back down? The reason being is that you don't have really a full opening in the starting rotation. Kyle Harrison just got pushed back a couple of days, so you needed a spot start. And with Harrison not going on the IL, you needed to send down a reliever, Easton McGee, right? He gets sent down on Friday to make room for him. So you had a 7-man bullpen. So now with Coleman Crow unable to pitch for the next 4 days, you needed a fresh arm for that bullpen. Otherwise, you can be pitching a man down. And that group is already overworked. So I would not suggest having that group be a man down for 4 days as well. So that is where he gets sent down on Saturday. Carlos Rodriguez gets called up on Saturday to take his spot. Rodriguez, he has been developed as a starter, but his role on this team, I think with how deep that starting crop is, I don't think Carlos Rodriguez is going to be able to make this club as a starting pitcher. I think he's last on that list of options to get a spot start. He is much more likely to be able to fill in as a reliever, long reliever, give you a couple of innings, and that's exactly what he's up to provide, to get you some extra length out of that bullpen so that maybe you don't have to work Aaron Ashby or DL Hall as much in those multi-inning roles. That would be very nice, Pat Murphy, if you could avoid having to turn to Aaron Ashby all the dang time. That would be nice, so that he doesn't end up blowing out his arm by June. So Carlos Rodriguez is up. He ends up pitching in the game on Sunday, gives you a couple innings at the end to help get you through getaway day and get you into the series against Detroit here that's coming up. But so that's why they made that move, okay? That Coleman Crow ends up going back down after a day. Even though he had a really great debut, you needed that extra arm in the pen. And don't worry, Coleman Crow will be back at some point this season. He keeps pitching like that, he is certainly going to be back and called up again the next time an opportunity arises, because that is exactly what the Brewers wanted to see and needed to see out of him in that game. So that is phenomenal, what he was able to provide and help this team get set up for this series against Detroit. So the Brewers have an off day here today, but now they've got a 3-gamer here against the Detroit Tigers. That's going to be coming up starting tomorrow. And for this series, just kind of looking at it, Kyle Harrison, who obviously got skipped over for Friday night to give him a couple of extra days to recover from that wrist issue that happened when he tumbled at first base after Gary Sanchez fired a baseball off of his kneecap. Harrison is now good to go and will be back in there for Tuesday's game. He will be starting against TBD for the Detroit Tigers. TBD is going to be getting a lot of work this week because it's TBD pitching on Tuesday. TBD is going to pitch again on Wednesday, and then he's also going to be pitching on Thursday. So that's a very busy 3 days for TBD for the Detroit Tigers. Obviously, they have not named their starters as of this moment, but Kyle Harrison's going to be getting the start on Tuesday here, and Chad Patrick will be getting the start on Wednesday. as the rotation kind of resets itself here. And then Brandon Sproat is going to be on Thursday. So as the rotation was to start the year, it was Miz, then Patrick, then Sproat, then Harrison, then Woodruff, and now it's being reset as Miz, Harrison, Patrick, Sproat, and then likely Woodruff there is going to be pitching on Friday against the Pirates when the Brewers do return home. That has not been made official yet on the probables, but that's how the rotation would seem to line up going forward here. So that's who the Brewers have. I mean, you got your three really young guys in this rotation, Harrison, Patrick, Sproat, for this series. So excited to see Harrison back out there after he's been dealing with this bit of an issue with the wrist. And making sure that goes away. Patrick pitched really well last time out. Sproat pitched really, really well last time out. So both of those guys have taken that step forward this season. Kyle Harrison has been pitching well from the beginning. So it's just kind of a matter of having his first baseman not fire a baseball off of his kneecap. And I think we're going to be seeing a very good start for him against the Tigers, who are 12-10. They're playing in the AL Central, which is, it has been one of the worst divisions in baseball. But the Tigers, they're currently a half game back. They're behind the Cleveland Guardians in that division. So they're hanging around. I mean, they're going to be a competitive team this year. They're going to be a playoff contender. Them and the Guardians most likely going to be battling it out for that AL Central title. And it's going to be a very, very fun series. You got Tarek Skubal in that series as well. And, we may see, obviously, they have not made official their probable starters, but should things track the way that they have been tracking for the rotation for Detroit, it's looking like we could see Tarek Skubal lining up against the Brewers on Thursday, so that final game against Detroit. That's what it's looking like as at the moment, but as of now, they have not yet named those starters, so we shall see. Likely at some point today, they're going to be making that news official in terms of what they're looking at that rotation to be. But it's projecting to be Keider Montero on Tuesday, Casey Mize on Wednesday, and then Tarek Skubal on Thursday. But we shall see what they end up doing, and we'll talk about it on Tuesday's show. But the Tigers, I mean, they got a pretty solid lineup there. You got Kevin McGonigal batting at the top of the order, really, for that group. One of the top prospects in baseball, made his debut, has signed his extension. You got Gleyber Torres in there. You got Riley Green. You got some really, really good young players with that group. Dylan Dingler, Spencer Torkelson. So, and of course, there's old friend Javier Baez, who is on the Detroit Tigers. So you got that you're going to see this series as well. All right, to kind of wrap up here, I'm going to do kind of a sort of a shameless cross-promotion self-plug here because, I mean, not only do I have Brewers Daily here, but I also write at Brew Crew Ball as well. And I had a story that I thought was really fun that I put up on Sunday on the Brewers coaching staff and how they get away from baseball for a little bit. Because, I mean, for most of us, baseball is a nice little getaway, right? It's a getaway from work, all the kind of worries of everything with everyday life, the stresses of our jobs. It's like, hey, you get to go relax, watch a baseball game. It's fun. But for the guys whose job is baseball, right, what do they do? I mean, if your job is baseball, more baseball isn't going to help you really get away from work. It's just kind of more work at that point. So what do? They play pickleball. It's led by Matt Erickson, Jason Lane as well on the Brewers coaching staff. So, I mean, the assistant coaches, the front office, I mean, all these guys, they play together. They're going on the road and they're playing. They've got, the strength and conditioning staff, the athletic training staff. They've got like everyone all coming together and they're playing these pickleball matches throughout the season, throughout spring training. And they're just kind of bringing everyone together, and it's so fun. So I did a whole deep dive on that story over at brewcrewball.com, and I'm very excited about it. I'm very proud of it. So if you want to look it up, it is titled "How Pickleball Has Swept Up Brewers Coaches and Keeps Them Sharp." Because when you've got the grind of a 162 game season, you got to find ways to keep yourself sharp and kind of getting away a little bit, and having something competitive like pickleball like that. It helps keep that group sharp to help keep the Brewers themselves sharp on the field. So please go check that out over there on brewcrewball.com. Very excited about that story. And also, please, check out, obviously, Brewers Daily on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you're so inclined, please give a review. I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear what you have to say if you're enjoying the show. If you've made it this far into the show, the 15 minutes, whatever in, I would hope that you've enjoyed it to this point. So if you have, I would appreciate a review on there as well. Obviously, subscribe, get notified every single time a new episode drops. You can follow me on Twitter as well, at dgasper24. Appreciate all of you watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Brewers Daily.